So today we are going to start with chapter 2, which deals with transportation systems and organizations. Transportation systems are basically a combination and aggregation of vehicles, guideways, terminal facilities, and control systems. Vehicles can be any type of vehicles, automobiles, trucks, buses. Airplanes are a type of vehicle, ships are a type of vehicle. So vehicle can differ in definition on the basis of what type of mode you are considering. Then guideways are according to vehicles. Automobiles run on highways, trains run on tracks, and for ships we have sea routes and air routes and so on. Terminal facilities again, for cars and buses we have bus stops and parking facilities. For trucks we may have warehouses and garages. For then we have airports and ports for airplanes and ships respectively. And control systems is anything which is placed uh, on the guideway to control the movement of vehicle, like a traffic signal or lane marking or a control tower or lighthouse. Okay, and all these systems are used for movement of passengers and freight. So to operate these systems, we have established procedures, we have standards how to operate them. Okay, again, take the example of a signal. We have a standard procedure about the lights of the signal and their timing and so on. So these procedures operate these systems in the air, on the land, and as well as on water. When you are comparing between different modes of transportation, you mainly consider these things: cost, travel time, convenience, and flexibility. Okay, cost and travel time are more important than other things, but convenience is an important thing, especially when you are going for your personal trips or you are going for something on daily basis. The convenience becomes an important parameter, and flexibility can be important again if you are traveling with family or you have delicate items which need to be transferred from one place to the other place. Okay, so uh, for specific users, the the preference for these factors can be different. For some users, cost can have more preference than travel time, and vice versa, and so on and so forth for convenience and flexibility. So if you talk about passenger travel, then automobile is obviously a more common mode, and these means cars. So why cars are preferred for passenger travel? Because obviously they are reliable, you are handling it yourself, they are comfortable, okay, they are flexible, okay, you don't have to follow a schedule for that, and they are ubiquitous. Ubiquitous means something which is easily available, and it is it is all around you. Okay, so even if you go to a new country, they can uh, you can rent a car and drive it even with your license of Bahrain. They will allow you for a few months. Then airplane is preferred for obviously longer distances, and the time is an issue here. You want to cover more distance in less time, then you prefer airplanes. But airplanes have to be supplemented by car. This is how you get to the airport, and then from the airport to your final destination. And if time is not a problem but you have budget problems, okay, you want to spend less but still cover more distance, and you are willing to compromise your time, then intercity bus or railway systems can be used. We don't have these services commonly in Bahrain because the distances are so short. When it comes to freight transport of materials, then obviously trucks are more preferred all around the world because of the flexibility. Okay, again they don't have schedules, and they can provide door to door service. So if you want something at your home, you have to hire a truck. Okay, like your furniture. When you're ordering furniture for your house, you have to rely on truck. Okay, and obviously then trucks, based upon different routes and their availability, they are very flexible. Ships are used for transporting bulk quantities, but they are slower. And then railways are preferred for many different things wherever they are available, obviously. And again, they have to be supplemented by trucks. They cannot work alone. You cannot have a railway station within the cities and near the houses and near the factories and so on. So you rely on trucks to get to the final destination. Now let us look at this example. We have this example is for one person who is traveling from city A to B, and these cities are 400 miles apart. So you can see the distance is very long. Now he has three options. He can travel by air, travel by car, or travel by rail. If he travels by air, then he has to drive to the airport, and he has to park, and he has to wait at the terminal, and he will be flying to the other airport. Then at that airport he will take a taxi, and he will go to the taxi stand, he will wait there, he will take a taxi and go to the final destination. Okay, so this will be his trip. If he goes by car, then obviously he will just drive, but you can imagine the time. And then he is going to downtown areas. He is living in a congested area in a city, so he will start his trip from a congested area, and he will go to another congested area at his destination. Okay, so they call them downtown areas. So in downtown areas, congestion is a problem, and parking is also a problem. Okay, and then he may not find a parking space near his destination. He may have to do some walking at the end as well. If he goes by rail, he will take a taxi to the railway station because there are no parking facilities there, and then he will take a direct rail to the destination. Okay, so the railway station is very close to his final destination, so you don't have to take a taxi there. He can just directly walk. So for these three modes, they have given us the time and the cost. Okay, so if he goes by air, his cost will be $250, including taxi and parking and the air ticket and everything. If he goes by car, then it will take him $200, including the parking fee, the fuel, and everything, and it will take him 8 hours. If he goes by rail, then it will cost him $150, again including everything, and it will take him 12 hours. Okay, so the fastest mode is air, and the slowest one is rail, and rail is also the cheapest one, but it is also the slowest one. So which mode should he select? Okay, for his trip. Now since he will consider cost and time. Obviously everybody considers cost and time, so they have given us a parameter about time. Okay, so if he can, every hour of this person amounts to $25 for him. The value of his time, according to his own standards, is $25. So if somebody comes to him and says that I can save 1 hour from your trip, but you have to pay me $25 than what you are paying to the airline. So he is willing to do that. So every hour for him is worth $25. And how do we get that? There are different procedures, but just to give you a rough idea, you can estimate his value of time from his salary. So I work for, let's say, 160 hours in a month, and for 160 hours I get, let's say, 1000 BD. So you can get my value of time for every hour. Okay, this is a very raw example. Okay, but there are other methods to get the value of time as well. So our first task is to find out which mode should be preferred on the basis of time and cost, and then what other factors he should consider in his decision, or if you are in his place, what other factors you will consider. So just look at the basis of time and cost. So if he takes air mode, 250 is the direct cost, and then it takes 5 hours, and each hour is $25 worth for him. So 25 into 5. Okay, so 250 plus 25 into 5 will give you $125 extra. This is the value of his time, the 5 hours which he is spending in the trip. So total value of this trip will be $375. So we converted the time into money as well, so we can add the time and cost both. Okay, if he goes by auto, then 200 is the direct cost, 8 hours the trip time, so 8 into 25 will give you plus 200 will give you $400. and if it goes by rail, then 150 direct cost, 12 hours of trip time into 25. Okay, so 25 into 12 plus 150 will give you $450. So if you consider both effect, then you can see the air is the cheapest. The air is the best mode. I will not say the cheapest. If you look at the direct cost, it has the highest cost. But when you consider the saving in time, it becomes the best mode for him. What other factors he should consider? He should consider safety. Okay, safety is very important. So if you consider safety, then maybe he may not prefer auto, because cars have more accidents than air and railway, and railway uh, air accidents are more severe because you fall from the air, then there is no coming back for you. You fall from the air, then you go back, okay, forever. Reliability. Now if he goes by auto, then there are congestion problems and so on. Okay, so for reliability, he may opt for air mode because that is considered more reliable in terms of arrival time. Okay, but if there are weather problems because of which five flights are cancelling, then he may go for other modes. Okay, then convenience. Convenience can be in terms of the time of his departure. If he goes by railway or if he goes by air, then the flight goes at 5 a.m. in the morning. This is not a convenient time for him, then he may go for another mode. Okay, now while you are considering the transportation system, you have to consider two factors. One is the transportation demand, which is how many people want to travel, and the other is the transportation supply. That means how many people you can allow to travel, okay, or for how many people you have the space for traveling. Okay, now if the cost, both these things, demand and supply, are dependent upon the cost. Okay, for example, if you look at this figure, okay, now you see when the cost of travel is going down, the volume or the demand is increasing. This is the demand. This is the demand axis. So if you provide a cheaper mode, then more people will want to travel from that. Okay, this is understandable. Similarly, if if you have more volume, then the cost of supply will increase. For example, you have a bridge. On that bridge, 10,000 vehicles cross per day. These 10,000 vehicles will cause some wear and tear to the structure. They will cause some damage to the pavement surface and so on. So if there are 10,000 vehicles crossing, the cost of maintenance will be comparatively less. Comparatively less to what? Than to a higher volume. So if on the same bridge, let's say after 5 years, 20,000 vehicles are traveling, then the cost of maintenance will go higher. So this is the cost of supply. Okay, maintaining the supply of the infrastructure, and this is the volume. Okay, so this the if the supply sorry if the volume increases, then the cost of supply will also increase. The cost of maintaining the transportation supply will also increase. Okay, so increasing the supply will eventually, if you are increasing the supply for more vehicles, then your cost will be higher. So you think at the end that for 20,000 vehicles I should build a new bridge, then obviously for that bridge you will have more cost and so on. Okay, an example for that is the travel between Saudi Arabia and Bahrain. Okay, so you prefer to go by causeway whenever it is open because it's cheaper. So if you look at the volume of people going by causeway and by airline between Saudi Arabia and Bahrain, you can easily understand this. Okay, now for accommodating more traffic on the causeway, they are planning to build a new causeway as well. Okay, so this will increase what? This will increase the transportation supply. New bridge will increase the transportation supply, but at the same time now they have to maintain two bridges, so their cost will also increase. Okay, so when you increase the transportation supply, cost increases, and it is the other way around for demand. When you decrease the cost of something, so let's say you decrease the toll on the causeway, or you announce that the causeway will be free from now on, no money will be charged from anyone. So more people will start to travel. So demand will go higher. So you have to balance between these two things. Okay, there's an example here of a toll bridge. So like I gave the example of the King Path Causeway, they collect some toll from you when you are going through that. Okay, so it's a toll bridge. So that toll bridge in this example carries 5,000 vehicles per day. Each vehicle pays 150 cents to as a toll. So now let's say they have done a survey and they have asked people that if we increase the toll by 25 cents instead of 150 it becomes 175 cents, then how many people out of these 5,000 will still want to travel on the bridge? So like I said, if you increase the cost, then demand will decrease, right? So out of 5,500 people said we will not travel by the causeway if you increase the toll by this much. So but you are increasing the toll, so you are collecting more money, but at the same time you are reducing traffic. Okay, so now like I said, we have to balance. So what is the maximum toll you can charge at which the total revenue will be maximum? The total revenue will be what? The toll which you are taking from each vehicle multiplied by the number of vehicles. Now you increase the toll, you decrease the number of vehicles. Okay, so there is a point up to which you cannot further increase the toll, because after which the number of vehicles will be so low that the effect of increasing the toll will not be valid. Okay, so we want to increase the revenue, we want to increase the amount of money we are getting from the bridge. Okay, so we are thinking about increasing the toll, but increasing the toll will reduce the number of vehicles, so there is a reverse effect as well. So we have to find out how much toll should be increased so that in the end we get the maximum revenue. So we have to make some equations first. The first equation you see here is for volume. Okay, so in this equation we are trying to find out the final volume which will happen after you increase the toll by x cents. So x is the increase in toll in number of cents. 5,000 is the actual current volume, and this volume will decrease by this much ratio. What is the ratio? 500 upon 25. For every 25 cents increase in toll, 500 vehicles decrease. So how many vehicles will decrease if I increase the toll by x? So x into 500 upon 25. The toll after increase of x cents will be capital T. So 150 plus x, 150 is the current toll plus x the increase. Revenue is number of vehicles into toll. Okay, so number of vehicles, the equation is this one, the V, and for toll the equation is this one. So you put both the equations here, you open the brackets, you multiply, and you get this this thing, and after you simplify, you add and subtract the similar terms. This is the final equation for revenue. Okay, so you can see the x here. Okay, to have maximum value of x, I should take the derivative of this equation, and the maximum value of x will happen when the derivative is 0. Why? Because let's say this is r, the revenue, and this is x, the toll. So it's a second degree equation. So the curve is like this. Okay, and this is the maximum point, maximum revenue point. So I'm trying to find out x at this point, and you can see at this point the slope is 0. So slope of any curve is the derivative of the equation. So I take the derivative of the equation, this equation, and I put it equal to 0, so I will get x. So the toll can be increased up to 50 cents at this point. Okay, so here the value of x is 50 when the revenue is maximum. So now you keep on putting everything back. So you put x as 50 cents here, the toll will be 150 plus 50, 200 cents or $2. You can put the value of x here as well. Okay, so you will get the current volume, and we already have the you will have the volume with without the toll, and without the increase and with the increase. Okay, so if you have the increase of $2 or 200 cents. So this will give you the maximum values. Okay, and the current one is what? 5,000 into 1.5, the current volume into current tool. So this is the current revenue, and this is the additional, or this is the new revenue with x equal to 50 cents. Okay, so you take maximum minus current, it will give you the additional revenue. So if you increase the toll by 500 cents, although the number of vehicles will reduce, but eventually you will be getting $500 extra every day. Okay, so the toll, final toll will be $8,000. The current toll is $7,500. So you will increase the revenue by $500 for every day. So transportation systems acts or remains in a state of equilibrium, meaning the number of people who, or the percentage of travelers going by each mode are fixed. The speed of different modes are fixed. Railway has its own speed, bus has its own speed. Okay, so these things are fixed. Okay, whatever is happening in the system will keep on happening unless you change something. Now, what are the things which can change the equilibrium of the system? These are market forces, government actions, or changes in transportation technology. Market forces can be the economy of the country. Okay, in what direction the economy is going. So if the economy is booming, it is growing, then it will change the system of transportation as well. It can competition with other regions, or competition between different modes of transportation. So there's a competition between trucks and railways, or the like, who gets some more uh, freight. Okay, or there's a competition between different routes of buses, like who attracts more people towards your service. So they do something for the sake of competition. It can change the equilibrium of the system. So for example, there the bus service, new bus service which decrease their fare, so more people will go towards that service. Okay, and less people towards the other service. And cost and prices of the system. Okay, cost of cost of cars, cost of price of the cars, cost of fuel. Okay, prices of fuel. Okay, so if any of these things changes, manufacturing, maintenance of the road, prices of materials. Okay, cost of materials. So if these things changes, then the transportation system will behave accordingly. Then government actions can also uh, change the equilibrium condition. How can the government affect transportation system? They may provide subsidies on certain things, like subsidies on fuel. So if they increase or decrease the subsidy, it will change the travel pattern. They may change their regulations. Okay, so the government may decide we will ban a particular type of vehicle. Okay, they may provide promotions. For example, you may have promotions on traveling by bus. They may introduce coupons or other services with the bus. Okay, so it will change your travel behavior. Then transportation technology can affect the speed, capacity, range, and reliability of a service. For example, we have now high speed trains in China that can travel up to 200 kilometers per hour. Okay, so if you have a train like this, obviously you want to go by it. Okay, similarly, you can have double decker buses which have more capacity. Okay, and you can have transportation services with more range. So earlier they were not coming directly to your house, but now you have a transportation service directly to your house, or a new highway to your house. Services are more reliable. Okay, they become more reliable. Flights are becoming more reliable, or ships are becoming more reliable. So that will change your travel behavior. It will affect your choice. Okay, and all these things keep on changing with time. So transportation systems also keep on changing with time. They don't remain at the same level, because to remain at the same level, all these things must remain constant, which doesn't happen. All these things keep on changing. Okay, now let us talk about public transportation, which are very important for transportation engineers. Public transportation provides high capacity. Okay, so they are for mass transit. They carry more people. Okay, so the capacities are higher and they are usually more efficient in terms of energy. Okay, the buses and other things. Okay, they are now becoming more energy efficient. Now we have electric buses as well, not here but in many other countries, and they can travel along densely populated areas. Okay, densely populated corridors. Okay, so where there are more people living or the commercial areas, so these public transportation can provide access to these areas. Transportation systems can be of three main types. We have mass transit, which travel on fixed routes and schedules, and they have fixed stops like buses and light rail, and rapid transit, which and they can travel mixed like with other traffic, like what is happening in Bahrain, or they can have their own lane. Okay, or they can have their own bridges or so on, like metro services. Then we have paratransit services, which are available on demand, so you can hire a car or hire a taxi with a chauffeur. These are known as paratransit. And then we have ride sharing, in which you arrange with someone else to give you a ride with them. Okay, for example, you come to the university with some other colleague or some other uh, friend. Okay, so we also call it carpooling or car sharing as well. So someone else is sharing the car with you, and it is totally based upon your own arrangement. Like, it is not, you don't pay, hopefully, to the other person. Now let us talk a little bit about the development of the highway projects, and we will talk more about this in detail in the other chapters, like chapter 14 as well. Highway projects are normally very large and they are completed in years. Okay, if you look at the planning stage till the completion. Okay, obviously the construction will take a little bit of that time, but the actual planning starts way before the construction is beginning. So the duration of the project can be from 3 to 12 years, and it can depend upon the scope, like what type of highway are you constructing. Are you just expanding a highway, or you are just constructing a new bridge, or you are building a whole network. It will depend upon the characteristics of the highway, the type of highway you are going to build. Yeah, are you going to build a small road or a major highway or a national highway or what? And how much support you have from the community, people living in that area, the residents, the traffic police. It can also increase or decrease the duration of your project. The project comprises of 6 stages, starting with the selection of the project. So depending upon the needs of the people, the traffic trends, sometimes maybe because of accidents. Okay, so you look at the existing scenario and you select the location or the type of highway which should be constructed. Then you investigate your alternatives, that for this particular location or for this particular trend or problem, what are the alternatives we can have. Should we build on bridges? Should we take route A or route B? Should we try to make new bus stops or what? Then you have to get the funding approvals, and believe me, it's not easy. Nobody wants to give money, even if it does not belong to them. Then after obtaining the approval, you develop the design of the project. Okay, so you hire a consultant or you have your own team who can design the project. So you do the designing, then you prepare the plans and everything for construction. So you get the funding in place, you prepare the plans and maps and drawings, you do the necessary surveys and so on, and then you start with the construction, which is the 6th stage in this process. Now the transportation system has many stakeholders, and these are basically organizations or agencies which are involved in any aspect of the transportation system. So these agencies maybe who are planning or designing or building or constructing the system, or they may be operating or maintaining the system. Okay, so all these agencies and organizations are part of the stakeholder group, and they include the following. They may have the private companies whose services are there for hire, so you can hire them for taxis, buses, trucks, Okay, the things you hire related to transportation, even hiring service worker, consultancy and construction work and so on. Then we have regulatory agencies which monitor the safety and the service quality of the system. For example, we have traffic police, we have hospitals, emergency centers, okay, and we have maintenance departments and so on. And then we have agencies at different levels. Now Bahrain is a small country, so we don't have so many levels, fortunately, in the government. But if you go to a bigger country like USA or Saudi Arabia or even India or Pakistan, you will see that agencies are divided at different levels. Organizations are Government is divided in different levels. So you have one at city level, then you have at province level, then you have at the federal level, the central government. Okay, so they basically provide the funds, and do the they handle the laws and regulations. Okay, so they are basically the ones who make the laws and regulations, and they have the money as well, like not their own money, the money from the public, they are responsible for it. Then we have trade organizations, which are basically people who are involved in the same trade within the transportation sector. So you can have a truckers association, people who are all having trucks. You can have a bus owners. In Karachi we have a bus owners association. Okay, because buses are operated by multiple owners. Okay, so you can have a taxi owner association. You can have unions within the government sector as well, in the ministries. Then we have professional organizations, consultants and contractors and people who provide professional services, maybe driving companies and driving schools and so on. And then we have the transportation user group, which is basically drivers, pedestrians, uh, passengers, okay, a bicyclist, anybody who is using the route. Now the system in Bahrain, the government sector, which deals with the transportation system in Bahrain, is mainly comprising of these four agencies. The first one is Ministry of Transportation Telecommunication. They basically do the planning, okay, and they monitor the trend of transportation, okay. And then we have the Ministry of Works. Okay, they basically handle the maintenance of the roads, and they also take care of the construction of the roads, okay, and any other thing related to that. And then we have Ministry of Municipality Affairs and Urban Planning. Okay, they are also somewhere in between. They coordinate with Ministry of Transportation and Ministry of Works. So basically they deal with the basic utilities. So road infrastructure is one of the utilities, and then there are other utilities which are provided with the road infrastructure. So they coordinate for other services with the Ministry of Transportation and Ministry of Works. And then we have the General Directorate of Traffic, which manage the traffic, and they enforce the laws, and they make sure you have the license and so on. So this is it about the system of transportation worldwide as well as in Bahrain.